like that one. Sorry. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Why hilarity? I was just saying to the guys, I'll explain why Dr. Silkman's not here with us this morning. And Milbillie, what did you say?
He's on vacation.
He's on vacation with
Sherry Cohen.
Yeah.
Oh God.
In actual fact, more bizarre. He's in training for for next year's cheese rolling event in Rockworth, and he's gone off to a special training camp to take part in next year's event. So hopefully he'll be back with us very, very, very short. And maybe he's having a bit of fun with Sherry. You know, maybe they are just comparing notes and doing. But anyway,
try to.
Sorry?
What's the famous song? Try to find her in the house or the garage or whatever.
Yeah. Try to place her.
Place
her in. Yes. Yeah. You know, which is just so bizarre because, you know, the idea is surely you want to find anybody's DNA that could, you know, that you would then question, why is somebody's DNA here? But you know, you don't as an investigator, you don't try and get the lab technician to end up with, you know, to satisfy your request. You know, that's not how a lab technician should work, is it?
No. But anyway, Mr. Capaldi, good evening from Australia.
Oh yeah, yes. Good evening, Mark, and good evening, Milbillie, who is still incarcerated. But hopefully once Kathleen Zellner has dealt with Steve, yes, she'll come and get you out as well.
Yeah.
Where's your hat, Mr. Hodd, or not?
My hat?
We've all got our hats on.
Yeah, I've got my hat in. Here we go.
See you, Jimmy.
Hey, Jimmy.
Now,
it's in honor of your heritage, Paul, and the orange hair and Milbillie's orange beanie there. So
that's right. Yep. As you can see, there's snow on the roof of the
blue and white
coverage arch. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okie dokie.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Mark. No, go.
I see that Shane Henry on the chat is to tell Milbillie that the key to the cell is on the floor behind him.
Yes,
probably right next to the cabinet. Probably if he shakes it, moves it, and wiggles it, it'll pop out, and there it'll be, and he can just open the door. So,
right next to his slippers.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I know that one of the things that Dr. Silkman wanted to do was to look at, and he was going to do some stuff about the the forensic analysis of the RAV4. So we'll save that one for when he's back with us next. What I did want to share with you, and hopefully this will work fine, is this, which I hadn't seen before. I don't know why I hadn't seen it before. Milbillie, you've seen it before. And it's from a year ago, and it's actually Kathleen Zellner YouTube channel, which she's only got like 3 videos. So
is it a legitimate Kathleen Zellner channel, or someone who's naming it that way?
Well, it seems legitimate because of the actual little clip that we get to see of Kathleen Zellner and a question from students. Well, they say from West Middlesex. I know that Middlesex is one of the counties that Greater London is in, but that's Middlesex. But there must be a Middlesex in across the Atlantic there. Any idea where Middlesex is?
Sounds like a county in New England, in the East Coast.
Yes, because you've got on the East Coast, you've got like Suffolk County, Essex County, and a few others, haven't you?
So what's this we're going to see, Paul?
So it's as I say, it's a short clip of Kathleen Zellner asking a question from one of the students from West Middlesex, and then we'll look at the one of the comments. This was a year ago by the dude himself, and a reply by none other than Charles Darwin, who we all know perfectly well. Charles Darwin is the more polite pseudonym for Ken Kratz. Charles Darwin, he comes across as sometimes at times, reasonably eloquent and presentable, but not like some of his other characters that he's come up with.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here we go. Hopefully this will work. If I do this, and then I go to this, and then I click on play.
Can you enlarge it?
My first question is, what factors help you decide what cases to take on?
What I do, so let's just take the Stephen Avery case, okay, as an example. So Stephen Avery had kind of...
Right, it's as loud as it will go.
Contacted my office several years before we took the case, and we have a screen set up so that if someone presents, if their case presents with a lot of incriminating forensic evidence, it would be very difficult to get us to accept the case back then in 2011. However, I, like millions of other people, ended up watching the first series of Making a Murder. I had just had a blood spatter case where I got my client exonerated because the blood spatter was incorrect. As soon as I saw the blood spatter in Teresa Halbach's car, I knew that there was something wrong with the forensic evidence in the case. So if one piece of the evidence has been planted, all of it has been planted. We'll plant it.
I've said that before.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want people who've been convicted who want forensic testing done. That's a good litmus test that someone's innocent. No one guilty is going to be asking us to do forensic testing. Last week I was in Houston on a murder case, and the prosecutors invited me there on a case. They got a conviction, but they're open to retesting. They're not sure they've got the right person. And so we're going to work together and do a lot of DNA testing. So for me, a lot of it begins and ends with the science. It's very tricky to just work off witness testimony or witness recantations.
Well, gentlemen, thoughts on well, as you said, Milbillie, yes, isn't it the case that if you've got questions about the bit of the evidence, you've got questions on every bit of it, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Particularly when the questions and then the subsequent answers show that there's mischief going on. If they're capable of doing that for one thing, they're capable of doing it for all things. And it's the same principle behind not telling the truth. If someone is prepared in a court of law to lie about one thing, they're capable of lying about anything. So they're interesting aspects of the way Kathleen Zellner analyzes the validity of whether this is a case of innocence that she's trying to defend. The last thing she wants to defend is a guilty person, and we know her history behind why she doesn't want to do that, based on that gentleman, I forget his name, who confessed ultimately to all those murders.
And she didn't say nothing until he died.
Yeah.
Oh, Larry Ayers. Was it Larry Ayers?
I forget the name, but
I think that was his name. Yeah, Larry Ayers. It wasn't Larry Adler, because that's the famous former harmonica player. It was Larry Ayers, Ayers. Yep.
Yeah. Irrespective of the person, the principle was that she decided early on as a professional that she didn't want to be defending someone who clearly was guilty. It troubled her.
That's why it boggles my mind. She was on the Holtzclaw case and she dropped out of it.
Oh, was she? I didn't realize that. Milbillie.
Her team was looking into
Yeah.
it.
Oh, interesting.
She's What happened was that because of the obviously her involvement with Stephen Avery, that's why she's she's still supporting those who are trying to work for Daniel Holtzclaw. The one thing that you have to be careful of course, if in the case of Kathleen Zellner, is to make sure when you're taking on a case that surely she's only going to take on cases that are clearly winnable, where there is no question of somebody having been framed. One of the problems for Daniel Holtzclaw is the fact that when these alleged altercations with these women took place, he had switched off his computer. There was no footage from his car, and that's a big problem for the police. So I'm not too sure how they're going to get around that particular problem. I mean, clearly there's problems with that case. Sorry, just a couple of people in the chat there. Larry Eiler, that's right. Cheers, Paul. I knew somebody Larry Eiler, but I thought it was Ayres, but no, it's Eiler that was the culprit. And then where's Silky? Where's Silkman? Milbillie? Is he away off on holiday with Sherry Colhane, or was he training for the next Gloucestershire cheese rolling event? Well, unfortunately, he can't be with us today. Hopefully, he'll be back pretty soon, and we'll get him back on to talk about his. He was particularly keen, wasn't he, to look at the way that Sherry and others had investigated or done their lab testing of 4. There was someone else I was going to.
I think, Paul, if I could just say that,
sure.
Just to take that point we're on there to its natural conclusion, and that was that Kathleen Zellner is the type of lawyer that he's only interested in freeing innocent people, right? So, and she's going to be very, very particular about who she takes on, so that the likelihood of success is high. And as we all know, she'll find you guilty if you're not telling the truth. But I think it'd be pretty rare that she would take on a case and subsequently realise that maybe the person that she's taken on is in fact guilty, other than the Larry Eiler matter. But that gives you a good comfort, because even though we all support Stephen and Brendan, we support them based upon the significance of the evidence, or lack of evidence in some instances. Not if they're guilty, if they were truly guilty, none of us would be supporting them in terms of what we're doing. And when you've got someone advocating for Stephen like Kathleen and Zellner, well, then it gives you a lot of comfort that you're on the right team here, right? That's how I see it. You're on the right team. Let alone our own individual judgment about the merits of the evidence. So,
I'll pop that one up for you to have a quick read of.
You might have to read it, Paul. It's a little small for me.
How's that?
Is
that okay for you?
So this is a quote from where?
So Robert Smith.
And he is?
One of the attorneys who defended Will County when Kathleen Zellner sued in the Kevin Fox case.
Okay, so he was the attorney for the county, right?
Yeah.
And he says, some of the lawyers who face Zellner cautioned Wisconsin prosecutors not to underestimate her, don't bluff her, and to anticipate that she'll have a deep knowledge of the case. She's smart as the dickens and skilled, says Robert Smith, the attorney who defended Will County when Zellner sued in the Kevin Fox case. She makes use of all 52 cards, both jokers, if you're in the courtroom with her. And both jokers if you're in the courtroom with her.
Yeah, sorry, that's the boss just arrived back. She's been away for the weekend, but I'm on her live, so I'll speak to you later. Yes, since obviously the dude passed away, I've been trying to get a bit more energy to lose a bit of weight. So yesterday, because Eunice was away, I borrowed the daughter's dog and did over 17,000 steps. So hopefully I'll start to get the weight off. But that's back now. So some of you might have noticed on Facebook, every morning she had me out before 7 o'clock in the morning doing this exercise regime. But anyway, enough of my woes. Well, yeah, it's important. Anyway, we've just seen the video by Kathleen Zellner, and talking of the dude, this was a year ago, or round about a year ago, probably well, somewhere between a year and 2 years ago, of course, because it says a year ago, and then when it comes to 2 years, it'll say 2 years. So it could have been any time within the last 2 years that the dude commented. And he put interesting.
So this is in reply to that same video we just watched.
That clip, yes. This is the dude's response, which was interesting. You should upload talks like this more often. Great to see this. I was also going to say, well, yeah, but here's the thing I was going to ask you, Milbillie. Notice at the end that she talks about a case in Houston where the prosecutors come and I say to her, will you come and look at this case? Because we think there's a possibility that, where's the people, where are the prosecutors in Wisconsin coming forward to Kathleen Zellner and saying, we think we might have a problem with Stephen Avery's case? Where are they?
Apparently they don't exist.
Yeah. They're hiding behind their next election.
Yep. Anyway, Milbillie, can you see that? Okay. Do you want to do the Ken Kratz Charles Darwin response?
It is interesting. The shows that Zellner never would have taken the case if it wasn't for being hoodwinked by making a murder. I guess we should have given Demos and Riccardi a credit for blowing smoke up a lot of people's dairy ardors. But we all don't have to be manipulated and brainwashed from the manipulated documentary, do we?
The dude's got 30 likes. Ken Kratz, come on, somebody go across and give him a like. Go on. No, I don't think it's going to happen. Thoughts on that, gentlemen? Thoughts on Charles Darwin's, Ken Kratz's comment there?
Well, he only commented on certain videos.
Yes.
He's only commented on one of mine, and that was the press conference that Lauren Ryder gave. They're petitioning Evers for clemency.
Yep. And what did he say in that one?
A whole bunch of comments.
Yeah.
Just basically the same thing he says all the time. You can tell it's Kratz.
Oh, yeah.
What he talks about, how he writes things.
Yeah. You can tell his style really quickly. So.
Yep. But no, what I was alluding to was, first of all, your thoughts on, Kathleen Zellner. Why did she take on Stephen's case?
Because he's innocent.
Well, yeah. That's the one thing that, it's funny, isn't it? I've come across people who have said and some comments to the fact that they accuse Kathleen Zellner of being only it for the fame and the fortune. That if making a murder hadn't come along, that she wouldn't have been involved. Well, that's not true, is it? Because Sandy was trying to get her involved for about 4 years. true.
Right.
Making a murderer was one that as she's saying that if you've got a lot of forensic evidence that makes it look as if somebody's guilty, you only got to listen to Milbillie's video, the great video of Emily Matick.
They could have been listening to Stephen's phone calls with Sandy and heard her mention Zellner, and they were like, "Okay, we got to get rid of this stuff." Because you started looking at the case at the same time that they gave the bones back.
Yeah. Yep.
Stephen, the whole thing with Kathleen Zellner arose for Stephen initially because Stephen had seen in prison the story of Ryan Ferguson back in 2012 or 13. I forget when that actually happened, 13 maybe. And it was from there that Stephen spoke to Sandy and said, "You got to get this woman. You got to contact her." And that's when Sandy started her crusade of trying to get Kathleen on board and wrote to her many times before she ultimately said yes. So,
but I mean, this whole idea that because Kratz and a lot of other people refused to take part in the original Making a Murderer Series 1, that somehow he calls it an advocacy piece, doesn't he, for the defence? That is so wrong, isn't it? I just can't believe that. How well, I know exactly why he's saying it, because he wants to say that. He wants to try and, as he was saying, blowing smoke up derrieres, but I don't find anything at all about Making a Murderer to be an advocacy piece.
It's definitely by outcome an advocacy piece for improving the justice system. Yeah, it's a justice problem. Stephen happens just to be one of the players in the story.
Who better person to pick? Wrongfully convicted once, may have happened again.
Exactly. In small country, rural Wisconsin, right?
And if they had nothing to hide, why are they hiding all these things?
That's the ponderable that says it all, really, Milbillie. If they were so convinced of his guilt, and that the evidence that they have shows that, well, then what's the problem in handing it over for further examination? In fact, they're abusing the justice system, which provides for review by constructing obstacles for that proper review process. Mm-hmm. So it's a kind of manipulated justice system to suit the outcome that they wish to achieve. So,
question for that you could take it in turns over. As you may know, a while back, I did engage in some text it was via Twitter email. I did exchange correspondence with Ken Kratz directly, and he it didn't come to anything, but he said, I'll give you one question. I don't know if you remember that. If you could ask Ken Kratz one question, what would it be?
Who are you protecting?
Well, yeah, I don't know that he would answer that one, but that's a good one. What, Mark?
Well, my one question would be, I'm adapting a question I've put for other players in this story, but I'd ask Ken Kratz this, and that is, if Brendan Dassey was your son, would have you been happy with the way he was interrogated without any attorney question, and did he get appropriate defense lawyers at the time? So in other words, would he be happy that a child of his got that same treatment?
What if it was your young hot nip that was convicted? How would you feel then?
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just ask, is my sound coming through for you guys?
It's a bit broken up from my end, but
Is it? Right. Okay. I don't think there's anything I can do. I can do about it. I'm saying it's it's just the beauty of the internet. I'm afraid. What I could try doing is if I close that one, and I close that one and that one, maybe the computer is trying to process too much stuff at once, and that can sometimes contribute to.
It could be the inbuilt Havering meter that interrupts your voice.
It could
when
be.
you go on too much.
It very, very much so. Yes, I agree. It could very well be that. And let me have a look and see if I've got any things that I can close as well. Let's. No, I've done all those, so these can all be closed. And just bear with me, and I'll just close all these. My question to him was, and I would probably go with this. This is my main question. Given the fact that Brendan was convicted solely on this false confession, this ridiculous confession, why did you not use the contents of his computer as evidence against him?
Exactly. I think that's a really great question. And because Ken Kratz himself labelled it as Brendan Dassey's computer in his stipulation to the defence. And what was the expression? Nothing of evidentiary value, or whatever it was.
Nothing much of evidentiary value.
Nothing much of it. Yeah. But speaking, we were talking a little moment ago about Charles Darwin. I've had some exchange with him a while back, and he talks about the computer being the family computer used by all of them. But I have that on saved messages. But in the evidence, he says, no, it was Brendan Dassey's computer. So if that, as you quite rightly point out, Paul, if that was true, let's just make it true. That would be an absolute golden piece of evidence to use against Brendan. So, but they didn't.
Well, obviously he had to say it was Brendan's computer. He couldn't have said, "Oh, it's Bobby's computer that we've looked at and we found all these images."
Yeah.
There was a question that came up. Hopefully the sound is a bit better.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, that's probably what it was, and I probably had a few too many things going on in the background. I don't know why I can't get rid of that one though. No, not to worry. There was a question that came up, a kind of a speculation, and that is, given the proximity of, the possible culprits in this case being so close to Brendan, is there a possibility that Brendan did in fact see something to do with this case?
That's very speculative, Paul. I mean,
it is. I mean, but my reaction to that would be, well, if he had seen something when they interrogated, that would have been one of the first things he would have come out with, wouldn't he?
Look, I'll tell you the very first step that proves, quite apart from the ridiculous and totally abusive confession thing, was we know enough about Brendan's character. If he allegedly came home from school on the bus, got the mail, and was walking towards Stephen's trailer, and he would be hearing screamings and carryings on and all the things. He would
not have gone anywhere near.
Exactly right. He would not have gone anywhere near that trailer. And therein lies, you just take that as one element, and the rest of the story doesn't unfold. Let alone that every story that he told about that event is always the same, other than with Fassbender and Wiegert, and that is he came home, he played his video games, talked to some friends. He tells that same story over and over again. His mum came home, blah, blah, blah. His brother went out trick-or-treating, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't change his story one iota because that's the truth and it's easy to remember. It's the lies that are hard to keep telling straight. That's why he gets so confused and so his story keeps changing with Wiegert and Fassbender because he's trying to figure out what he wants them for him to say, and he can't remember what he's told them before. So, because it's not the truth.
That's how they keep telling them, go over it in your head, replay the tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They already groomed him, basically.
Yes. Definitely.
Yep.
That's why he gets to talking and stuff, and they're leading the whole way. He first says she was shot outside the garage. That can't be happening because there's 6-7 inches of snow outside.
Yeah.
They say, no, what happened in the garage? They direct him every way. Parts of his, some of it is truthful, what he says, but it has nothing to do with somebody being murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we make of this Kayla Avery's talking to, was it Wiegert and Fassbender, and saying that, that Brendan's getting upset about stuff. What do we make of all that?
Well, you hear Kayla herself in that one jail phone call in the background telling them that Wendy Baldwin kept pressuring her, you have to remember. You can't remember something that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yep. But I mean, she's even younger than Brendan.
Significantly younger.
Yeah.
And not just in years, but in maturity, right? She was at the time in the period around 2006. I think Kayla was at that point about 12 or 13. She's an impressionable young girl in a family, right? I don't think we can all begin to imagine what the environment around the broader Avery family must have been at the time when all this is going on, right? And all this BS being piled on them, as Milbillie says, Wendy Baldwin's pressuring of Kayla and all the other sorts of things that were going on. The impact on a family is massive when that's going on. And this is not a sophisticated family. They're just trying to work week to week, put food on the table, running a salvage yard, right? So I, to Kayla's credit, I thought the way she handled herself in Brendan's trial was remarkable, to be honest. And I thought it caught the prosecution off guard. I think they realized early on, hey, we better not ask any more questions. This is looking, the more we ask, the worse it looks for us, right? So, so she did the right. She handled herself well for a young kid. She handled herself very well in the trial. So.
Yes, Juries makes a good point that that Brendan was particularly upset that Steve was no longer around. In fact, Steve was going to help Brendan sort out his first car, wasn't he? He was going to help get hold of a car because Brendan was just about to start to learn to drive. What age can you start learning to drive over there in Wisconsin, Milbillie?
15.
Wow.
But I want to. Shane Henry asks, "Is Wendy Baldwin retired?" No. She was reprimanded and fired from the County Sheriff's Department because she was at an officer's party.
Yep.
And they lit up a doll, whatever you should say, with numerous names of the Sheriff's Department, including Sheriff Pagel.
Yep.
And lit it on fire. And then she made a reference in the video that looks like a KKK rally.
My God.
Her and another officer were reprimanded. She was fired. The other one was demoted.
Yep.
So they made an effigy of something and
made it on TMZ.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously.
I've seen that. I've seen that video. Yeah, as you say, it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Just remarkable. Just remarkable.
Getting back
to go back to that point, Paul.
Sure.
You take away the only thing that existed against Brendan was his confession, and his confession was a confession that was constructed only in the world of Wiegert and Fassbender, and no representative for Brendan. how Judge Fox ever allowed that confession to be entered into evidence is just beyond the pale. And in the absence of that confession, I mean, there's no case against Brendan. And arguably, you know, all the utterances that Ken Kratz gave at that press conference about his salacious story about what happened on that day, that couldn't have been constructed. And it's a reasonable view to put that in the absence of this concocted confession that there wasn't a case against, an arguable case against Stephen anyway. So, and the fact that they ran two separate cases was strategically a good thing from the state's point of view. But that confession and the lack of proper representation for Brendan that everyone else would be normally entitled to, everyone is entitled to.
Well, 2 weeks before they went after Brendan, they're telling Jody that we know Stephen did this alone.
Yep.
And she wouldn't help him. And then she got released. They had no choice. They went after his alibi last.
Yep.
But in answer to your question about, you know, Judge Jerome Fox allowing the confession in, again, in this Blind Injustice book, there's a whole section about the about the, you know, the judges just going along with the state. It's like, you know, you've got your investigators, their interrogation. You've got, you know, once they reach the 51% level that they feel that they need to charge somebody, it's just a whole process. And, you know, the judges are in on that. Can you imagine what the outcry would have been in Manitowoc if Judge Jerome Fox had have thrown out the confession?
Well, it's not even a confession.
No, it's not. It's painfully obvious, but yeah. But it's
not validly constructed. It shouldn't be even given the title of a confession.
Yeah,
it doesn't even meet first base to be a document that is worthy of being presented to court.
Yeah. But it's just their system, their process. You know, as the author of the book put, you know, can you imagine in the you know the half-minute advert gap in a Packers game, if you've got a judge running for re-election who's saying that they're tough on crime, it gets the message across. Can you imagine a judge saying, you know, after carefully considering this particular case, I decided to do the unpopular thing, go with this because I've got a conscience. it ain't gonna get you very far, is it? You know.
No,
it should.
That's why you're a judge.
Exactly.
To be impartial.
Yeah.
To weigh up everything and on the balance of the information before you and the rules of law, you say, notwithstanding everything else, this confession has been not properly constructed. I'm not going to allow it as evidence.
Well,
I mean,
well, of course,
no one would allow that. No one around the world would allow such a thing as evidence.
Exactly. In no other country, English-speaking country in the world, are the police during an interrogation allowed to lie about knowing things that they don't know.
But even forget the words, Paul. Forget the words that were uttered and the words that were said. The environment in which that so-called confession was constructed, that is an unrepresented environment for Brendan. In other words, a lack of a proper advocate to support him in any of those questions. If he had a lawyer or an advocate present, that person would have said to Brendan, "Don't answer that question. Don't answer that question," because everything he said was incriminating himself, and he didn't realise it. And so the whole environment in which such a document was ultimately obtained was done totally against the principles of justice. So that should never have found itself anywhere in this process, anywhere at all.
Sorry to interrupt. Good evening, Doctor. Hope you are recovering nicely, and we get up to see you soon. I'm sorry to hear that you've had a bit of a mishap trying to practice for the next year's cheese rolling event. Does anybody know what the hell I'm on about? Cheese rolling.
Is that where they roll the cheese on the hill?
Yes,
Yeah.
or as the good doctor described it, rolling cheese and chasing after it down a cliff. Have you not seen it? It's the latest trending on Netflix. It's called We Are the Champions. Episode 1, must watch. It's one of the funniest things you'll ever see on it. Seriously, please do watch it. It's from my neck of the woods. It's from a place between
really?
Yes, it does. It shows Gloucestershire as being, you know how the dude used to call me that mad havering Scotsman. Well, he would have had a field day with us because he would have called me the mad havering cheese roller.
How did they come about the rolling cheese down the hill and chasing after it?
It's, I think,
not much to do in Scotland, Milbillie.
No. This is down in Brockworth, down in Gloucestershire. Down in Gloucestershire. No, what it was, I'm pretty sure it is the fact that they used to, it's called Cooper's Hill. Cooper's made barrels, and it was just a competition to see who constructed the best barrels, rolling it down the hill, seeing whose was able to survive the best. And for some reason, they changed it to this rolling the cheese down. You go chasing after the cheese. As it says again, I'm going to spoil it for people that haven't watched it, but you'll still enjoy it. There's still some great lines. In one of them, the landlady of the cheese rollers in Sherdington, which is right next to Leckhampton, where I'm from.
How did we get onto the topic of cheese?
Well, because because Dr. Siltman is in hospital because of his practicing for next year's event. Let me just finish off very, very briefly. She talks about the fact that, who's the fastest man on the planet over 100 meters? Usain Bolt. No. Chris Anderson has done the 100 meters from the top of Cooper Hills to the bottom, 8.2 seconds. Fastest man on the planet. Watch it. What
gravity is helping him.
It's gravity. It's like
Bolt run downhill and see how fast he runs.
Do you know what it reminds me of? In Toy Story when Woody says to Buzz, "You can't fly." He says, "I've got wings." "You can't fly," and everybody said, Buzz says, "Of course I can fly." So then, of course, he jumps off, and he ends up falling everywhere and going everywhere. And he can fly. Yeah, he can fly. And then Woody says, "That's not flying. That's falling with style." Watch Chris Anderson. You'll love it. It's absolutely brilliant. Anyway, how did we get distracted? Yeah, as I say, the good doctor is.
It's not the collective pronoun, Paul. We. Yep. It's
all right.
How did I get distracted? Right. Right.
I'm sorry to hear about the food. Yeah. There was another comment there. Where's it gone? No, I think that was it. I actually like hospital food. I know people locally who actually go to the hospital to the canteen because the food is very good and cheap. Even though they are not sort of to do with the hospital, they're not in to see a patient. They just go along for their lunch. It's good food. But anyway. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. The other thing I wanted to ask you was this, that going back to that Charles Darwin quote, and it's things that I get from guilters, this whole idea that I don't get their connection, that Kathleen Zellner has taken on this case in order to to win it, to take it on. Yes, of course there's going to be publicity comes with it. Eventually there's going to be a whole lot of money. When Steve is exonerated and compensated, I believe as a lawyer, I think it's mandated that they get a 33% commission, which is a lot of commission. But my question would be, In what way does that prove that Steve is guilty? It's their cognitive dissonance. Oh well, Steve must be guilty because Kathleen Zellner is only taking this case on because it was publicized in Making a Murderer.
Well, she only takes any case on based
Exactly.
upon one, her being aware of it, and two, that she believes that she's got a high likelihood of success because the evidence points to innocence. The money side is irrelevant, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, I'd be happy if the Gildas would come up with some issues about the facts of the case rather than the fluffy bits around the edges. I mean,
that's the problem.
They don't have that. They don't have that. That's all they've got. They're just clinging at straws.
They don't do the research.
No.
I think probably, I know you guys would have done it more times than me. I think probably on 5 or 6 occasions over the time I've been involved, I've been engaged with guilters on a discussion and asked them to give me their top 3 reasons why they believe Stephen Avery is guilty.
Yeah.
Usually 4 out of those 5 people don't even bother to respond, and the 5th one probably gives you one answer that says something like, well, the jury found him guilty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I genuinely am interested in a reasonable argument as to why they believe he's guilty. I'm not there trying to antagonize them. I want to engage them in a discussion. Tell me what you think are the compelling factors that would give you guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the test of guilt here, by the way, not how you feel about someone.
Yeah.
Is there guilt beyond a reasonable doubt?
Mm-hmm.
And none of them engage because it's all just fluff and bravado. That's why. Which is disappointing.
It's, for me, it's like, I've had people, some of these guilters that'll, they'll criticize me because my hair or my, facial hair or my teeth or the fact that I wear glasses. And my question to them would be, well, in what way does the way I look mean that Steve Avery is guilty, Give us some reasons why he's guilty, and not just because I've got a tooth missing or I've got a wonky tooth, but of course what it is, it's their way of trying to sort of derail, if you like, people talking about it, because some people would not react positively to being having sort of criticism of the way they look. They might say, oh well, I'm not going back on camera again, but I'm sorry, Woody, it's had the reverse effect. I'm determined to do more and more. In fact, I've set myself the target. You probably noticed of usually trying to do at least 1 video a day to just keep talking about it, because I know it annoys the hell out of the guilters.
Well, the main thing is that we focus on our game rather than the other side. To me, they're not that relevant. I mean, if they have relevant arguments, bring them forward and we'll listen to them. And if they want to engage, if they don't, that's their right as well. But I don't have any time for them because they're just like annoying mosquitoes, right? That's what they are. So I just want to swat them and get them out of the way and move on.
Well, I suspect that you've got people from all walks of life and all different backgrounds that are, in some way are sort of supportive of the convictions, and some might just be the fact that they just didn't like the fact that that the cat incident, they just dislike the Avery family because they're scrap dealers. It's that kind of dislike. They're not guilters, they're haters.
I think, Paul, for me, Paul, I think the main modus operandi for the so-called guilter tag is they don't like the fact that they maybe yet a second time have got this wrong. And their pride is in the way of examining the matter on a fair basis. I mean, there'll be some who are a bit more genuine in their guilt than that, but not many. But most people who no one has done the deep research on that side that people like Milbillie and others have done. To understand that this is built on facts. It's not built upon emotion, right? And so I think when you're dealing with guilters and he is guilty, it's not an intellectual response to the set of circumstances. I just a slight aside, but relevant issue, kind of relevant. I just finished watching on Netflix I think it's an older documentary called The Devil Next Door.
Yes.
Which is about the gentleman who was accused of being a Nazi war criminal and so on.
Yep.
And, and it got right through. He got deported from the US to Israel, faced trial, was found guilty, ordered to be executed. It went to appeal, finally got to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court decided differently. Yeah. And you've got a very passionate and very emotional groundswell of, understandably, about this person given the circumstances of the Holocaust and other matters. But even their Supreme Court decided, you know what, we can't find guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Yeah. Now, so it doesn't matter how many people in the courtroom or in the country as a whole were gunning for this gentleman's death, for want of a better term. Yep. The law had to have its integrity. Yep. And to their credit, I don't know whether the truth of whether the guy's guilty or not, but to their credit, they held up the justice process. So, I mean, that's how I think about the guilters. You can argue and yell and scream all you like because you don't like Stephen Avery, or you don't like what he may have done in the past, or you don't like the idea that it's making Manitowoc or other parts of Wisconsin look bad. But you have to believe in the justice system, because you might want to call upon it yourself one day, and you want it to be working on the basis of the way the law's meant to work, not on the kind of vigilante emotional thing that goes on surrounding a particular case. Yeah.
It was particularly that the evil next door was very interesting. How they they got all these people in the court to begin with to talk about how terrible the Holocaust was, but there was zero sort of evidence. But but is this the guy that you remember from what that was
45 years ago?
Yeah, it's it was just a bit. Yeah, it was ridiculous. The point and ultimately, he did actually die in prison, but in Germany.
The point of the matter is, that the system is far more important than the emotion, right? And the old adage is better that 100 guilty people go free than one innocent person be found guilty, particularly when the consequences can be death in many states. Still, I think 16 or 17 states in the US that have the death penalty, let alone other places around the world. So you want your justice system to work for justice sake. Take the personality, take the names off put anyone's name there. It should be how the system works. Yeah. And in the case of Brendan, which is linked to Stephen, obviously, on any reasonable judgment, his so-called confession should have never been allowed to find the light of day in a courtroom.
Absolutely. Milbillie, finally, I wanted to ask you of the latest couple of videos that you've released. I think they were short clips of. Are they phone calls or was one an interview? Can you just remind us what you've been up to this past week?
One was a portion of Stephen's interview in Crivets on the 6th.
Yep.
And the other one is Jody calling Stephen the day they find the car, referencing that she just got talked to by the police. Mm-hmm. She knows that Barb was arrested, and she wants to tell Stephen that she told law enforcement what he told her, that Bobby was the last to see her.
That's it, yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
And Jacobs, he delivers the phone calls that were recorded between them on the 8th. So we're missing all the phone calls from the 26th into the 8th, or I'd say the 7th.
Right.
About 8 calls.
Yep.
Go for the 4th, none for the 3rd, or one for the 3rd. There should be another one on the 3rd. None for the 2nd, none for the 1st. We're missing one for the 8th, one for the 30th. One.
Yeah. And was it?
So they released thousands of phone calls.
Yeah.
But,
And am I right in saying that in actual fact, obviously Teresa disappeared on the Monday, but on the Tuesday, Steve actually goes into Manitowoc to put money on Jodie's account so that she can.
He wouldn't have seen her too.
So?
He's seen her. He also went and put money on her books on Thursday night.
Right.
So they went to Menards.
Yeah.
I mean, is that are these the actions of somebody who's guilty of this horrendous crime?
North that weekend and leave the car there.
Yeah.
He has everything he could need to destroy a vehicle, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if even having said that, as you say, you've got the crusher. Yes, you've got to strip the car out.
Dug a big ass hole. Crushed
exactly.
The car, dumped the car in the hole, filled the hole back up, and then put cars on top of it.
Yeah.
Gone
absolutely.
Forever.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, gentlemen. I think I've kept you long enough, and I'd better go and face the music because there will definitely be something about what I've done upstairs this weekend that she'll not be happy with. It'll be some aspect of the kitchen not quite as she wants it or something. So if you hear screams coming from Galashiels, you'll know what it is. Okay.
Making a murderer. Right?
Yes. Making a husband suffer. Anyway, Milbillie, I hope you're soon exonerated and out of that jail cell. And Mark, I hope to catch up with you all next week. Hopefully, maybe the good doctor will be able to join us then. Let's hope so. Anyway. Until next week, I'll say cheerio, and I'll let you gentlemen say cheerio.
Hola.
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 Hola. Uru from Oz.
Yeah.
See ya.
Oh, I like that one. Do that again.
Uru from Oz.
It's goodbye from him, and it's goodbye from him. Bye, everybody.
See you guys. All the best. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye.